One time I was invited to assist at an exorcism. Yeah. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor. And the weirdest part of the whole thing, I don't know, no, not the weirdest part, but a weird part about the thing was that I was in my teens, my late teens, but I was a teenager. And it started at this church that I had been like helping out with on a leadership team. So here's how it happened. We were at church, and at this church, this was like not the church that I like went to all the time, but like it was a church that I played in a band at. At this church, they would have the like worship service stuff for teenagers, and then they would have like an altar call time where you would come down and people would get saved and whatever. And then sort of after that, people would just hang out. And it was in the hangout time that the pastor came up to me and he said, Jeremy, I think you should be part of this. It's something that, because he knew I kind of wanted to be a pastor, he was like, this is something that you should be exposed to, and I think this will be helpful. And I was like, well, oh, cool, what is it? And he was like, well, we, Johnny, whatever, is struggling with demons. And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, he feels like he's possessed by demons, and we're gonna deal with that right now. And I was like, okay. So we went into this little side room, and it was the pastor, it was Johnny, it was me, and it was like a youth helper, like another adult. And the pastor looked at Johnny looked scared as hell. And like Johnny had apparently confessed some things to the pastor, and the pastor had talked to him and, I guess realized that he was possessed by a demon. And I'll tell you what the possession was about, according to the pastor. And so the pastor said, okay, Johnny, get comfortable in that metal folding chair. And we all were supposed to come around and put our hands on his shoulders and head and stuff. So, I mean, I didn't know. I didn't know this was weird or unusual. I mean, I always wondered what it was like when people tried to do exorcisms, because I had seen movies, right? I watched horror movies that they thought were making me go to hell, but that's another story. And so I put my hand on Johnny's shoulder, and then the pastor starts speaking in tongues, and I'm like, what is happening? And he gets really into it. He's going fast. He's saying all sorts of, words in the weird tongue speaking. And then he starts yelling out the name of Jesus. And then he says, he addresses the demon, and he's like, demon, tell me your name. I always kind of thought it would be like the horror movies where the people would be like, rolling their eyes back in their heads and like talking in weird voices, but Johnny wasn't. Johnny just was scared. And the pastor said to Johnny, he's like, Johnny, do you want to be released from this evil? And Johnny started to cry, and he said, yes. And he's like, you need to fight it with us. And then the pastor asked for the demon's name again. And then he said, it doesn't matter. You're not going to tell me your name. I'm going to cast you out in the name of Jesus. And he's like, he says, I'm going to bind you with the blah, blah, blah in the name of Jesus. And he just keeps going on, bind you, cast you out in the name of Jesus. Just crazy, crazy stuff. And Johnny is crying. I now understand he's being traumatized in this moment. And the pastor won't let up. I was wondering what the pastor was looking for. Like, what was the thing that he would know? And at one point, at the very end, Johnny's just weeping. He's crumpled in the chair, and then he just like lets out this sigh and just sort of like slumps. And that, I guess, was it. That's what the pastor was looking for. And he patted Johnny on the back and he said, I know that was hard, but you're going to experience liberation, or something like that. So I told you I'd tell you what it was that he was being exorcised for. He had gone into the pastor's office and told the pastor that he was gay. And that was how the pastor responded. It's not surprising. He never came back. He went to a different school, so I never saw him again, but I have never forgotten the way that pastor's voice echoed in that tiny room with the metal folding chair. And let's be clear, even if there is a demon of whatever it is, well, the pastor also talked about the demon of depression. The way you deal with the demon of the depression is therapy, which is what I hope Johnny has had since then. But this kind of stuff, it does not help. It traumatizes people. And if you experience that, I am so sorry that somebody told you that you were being controlled by a demon. That's not cool. It should never have done that. And for those of you who participated in all of this like me, it's hard. It's something that I am completely embarrassed by, but it's something that you can't keep silent about. You have to name it, you have to talk about what it was, and name it as wrong, as evil, because that's what it is.